Hey everyone, Kellen here for Sheer Kellen with my first YouTube video post. I've been very inspired by some of my favorite YouTube video bloggers and posters. To give a little shout out would be HairGirl247 and Lilith Moon, who have probably some of the awesomest clip-in extension videos that I've seen. I'm definitely a frequent viewer of those videos and definitely decided that I should start posting some YouTube videos. I'm a professional stylist, recently relocated to Los Angeles, California, and constantly getting a lot of questions in the salon with my clients, so definitely figured it would be kind of a cool outlet for me to just post some videos on my knowledge and regular questions that I get. And always love helping anybody with their hair ventures and things like that. I definitely love tools and toys in the hair industry. Me being a male, I probably have more tools than most females out there, but definitely just looking to offer my perspective on certain things. So I decided a question I get a lot in the salon is the age-old question of Boar Bristle versus Nylon Bristle brushes, as well as what basic types of brushes every client should have in their repertoire. I know me as a stylist, when I go into Ulta, Sephora, really anywhere when I'm looking for a new hairbrush, it can even make my head spin with all of the options and things like that. So definitely wanted to just kind of cover the basics in this video and just impart my knowledge that I have on this subject and kind of get some feedback from you guys as to what you guys prefer brush-wise, and if there's any brushes that you guys have tried that you love or that you absolutely hate. So what I really want to go over in this video is the 4 categories, types of bristles that you guys are going to be looking at while selecting hairbrushes, as well as the 4 basic types of brushes that I always recommend to my clients to have access to while styling their hair day to day. Now the 4 basic types of bristles are going to be Boar Bristle, Nylon, plastic, Porcupine, and metal. I want to start with the Boar Bristle brush because this brush is probably my absolute favorite type of bristle to use. I know anybody who's gone in and had their hair professionally blown out by a stylist, you've probably encountered a brush like this before. Boar Bristle is a natural bristle. Yes, it does come from a boar. Don't be scared or nervous by that. It is cleaned and treated and everything like that, but that is where the name Boar Bristle comes from. Now these brushes are awesome at closing the cuticle layer of the hair shaft. Now how I kind of explain my clients the cuticle layer, it's the outer layer, the armor of the hair. It's what's going to keep hair color in, it's what's going to keep moisture in, and when that cuticle layer is closed or slammed shut, it is going to promote shine, touchably soft hair. So how I explain it to them is your cuticle layer is sort of like shingles. This being the root or where it's attached to your head, this being the end of the hair. The cuticle layer is basically arranged like this, stacked on top of each other. Now, when you wash your hair, shampoo it, anything like that, color your hair, sometimes when you use heat, that cuticle layer is going to slightly open. And what it's going to do is going to give your hair a matte finish. So this brush basically slams that cuticle layer shut, keeping moisture in your hair and also making your hair super, super shiny. Now, the downfall to this brush is many of my clients try to use this in their hair when it's wet or very damp. I only use this brush after I've dried the hair with either a vent brush or my hands to about 75 or 80%. Then I will go back and use this to smooth the cuticle layer down, slam it shut, and make the hair very shiny and kind of give it a little bit of a bend if you wrap it around or set it in the brush. I know I do, and many other stylists do, kind of a 5 or 7 brush blowout where you actually will round brush the hair with many of these brushes and then leave it in the client's hair just until it cools, and then take it out to really give you nice volume, big, sexy hair. Now this is my brush of choice just because I can get proper tension with this brush to really smooth that cuticle layer down. making it very soft and very shiny. I will say for most clients at home, this takes a little bit more time and work. And if you're not familiar with the brush or things like that, also trying to do it on yourself, kind of bending around and things like that, it can be kind of tough on the arms. Another thing about this brush is boar bristles are going to have the weakest of all the bristle types. And by weakest, I mean they're very, very flexible. So when they meet any kind of resistance in the hair, it's either going to tangle, which I've seen many clients do, or you know, it's not going to smooth the hair, which is why I recommend when you're using this, you're going to want to dry the hair with a vent brush or your hand to 75 to 80%, then go back and utilize this brush to really smooth the cuticle layer down, keeping your hair super shiny and super soft. I know when I do blowouts with this brush, my mentor taught me how to do the 3-day blowout, which is basically my clients will be able to have that nice blown out hairstyle for usually up to 3 days because of the manipulation that you put in with the heat, the blow dryer, setting the curl, and also using the Boar Bristle brush. Now, the next type of bristle that I want to go over is going to be the nylon bristle. I will say the term nylon is going to be an umbrella term or a catch-all term for really any bristle that is going to be plastic, nylon, rubber, some sort of material similar to that, or a synthetic material. Now, these range in, again, many shapes, sizes, things like that, from very, very small to obviously very, very large. These brushes are awesome for, I would say, 90% of my clients at home. They're a lot easier to use in the hair. You can use them when your hair is a little more damp and get very similar results to a Boar Bristle brush. I will say sometimes I get the complaint from my clients when they use these at home that it tends to make the end of their hair frizzy. There are some bristles that are a little too tough for the hair, or maybe clients are a little too rough while using these brushes, and they're going to stretch out the hair, especially when the hair is wet. It's going to have more elasticity, so it's going to stretch more. If you're not careful with these brushes, you can kind of have frizzier ends or things like that. But definitely I don't run into that too often. It is kind of a complaint that I do get with some of my clients when they use these brushes at home. Now, these brushes can range from soft and very flexible bristles, like the one on one of my larger brushes, which pretty much means the bristles are very flexible. You can see kind of like that. The bristles are very flexible with the hair. Also, with the smaller ones, they're going to be much more stiff and firm. These are kind of the ones that you have to be a little more careful with, especially on the ends of your hair. You don't want to over dry them, and definitely don't want to tear or damage the hair on the ends. Now, kind of my rule of thumb when selecting these brushes is it's always about control. You want to be able to control the hair, manipulate it, keep it on the brush, maintain that tension to close that cuticle layer down. Now, when selecting a brush, the control is going to depend on the density of the bristles, so the spacing of the bristles on the brush, and the flexibility of the material. So if you have longer hair, you're definitely going to want to have a brush that is a little more like this one, where the bristles are pretty well spaced out. There's definitely high density, but they're not quite as packed in like a Boar Bristle brush. As well as, you want to make sure they have some flexibility to them. So if they do meet any resistance in your hair, if you have kind of coarse hair or you know, heavier curl pattern to it, you don't want it to rip or tear the hair. Whenever it meets resistance, you want the brush to give and not tear your hair out or break it off is another thing when using hot tools. So the stiffer the bristle and closer the spacing is going to mean the more control that you're going to have with the brush. So you definitely don't want to select a brush with super wide spacing, sort of like this one. This is a metal bristle bust, but the spacing is very large and wide on this. It's not going to give you the proper tension that you need to smooth that cuticle layer down. But these brushes are really great for everyday use at home. Most of my clients are going to use something similar to this at home. The cool thing about these brushes is they're usually vented, which means they have kind of holes in the brush. This is a ceramic barrel. It does say it's got the ion technology, which promotes shine and things like that. But this will allow clients to take their hair from a wetter state to a drier state faster while still being able to give it a little bit of curl and bend, which most of my clients don't usually nowadays want stick straight hair. The next brush type that I want to go over is going to be, let me grab it, is going to be Porcupine Bristle. And no, they don't, it's not like a Boar Bristle where it actually comes from a boar. This is more just kind of what it looks like in the arrangement. If you know, with porcupines, they tend to have shorter, softer bristles that are more flexible with the quills that stick out, which is kind of what these brushes, at least these two, will resemble. These brushes are great if you have a coarser hair or a higher density of hair, because the synthetic or the nylon bristles are going to give it a little more strength and detangle your hair when you're going through it and things like that. And the boar bristle is going to be there, like I said, to smooth that cuticle layer down and give you really, really soft hair. So a lot of my clients, whenever possible, I recommend these brushes at home. I've seen them in a lot of, I guess, the YouTube videos that kind of feature the, the Victoria's Secret blowout and things like that. These brushes are awesome at home. These two are Spornet brand. They do have a wooden handle, so they're not vented. This one does have the core cut out, making it a little bit lighter on the hand. I will say the one kind of gripe I have about this one is when I am using products on the hair, especially some kind of Moroccan oil or something like that, this can tend to get a little bit slippery in your hand. I know for some clients that can kind of be a difficulty, but this one is awesome. Again, you still want to dry your hair to 75–80% before utilizing this brush, but it is a great alternative to not using an all boar bristle brush. And if you have the problem with the nylon bristles where it does tend to make your hair a little frizzier because of the amount of airflow that can go through this brush. Now, the reason they call these porcupine is because the grouping of the bristles. So I'm going to hold it up to the camera. You'll see there's basically a nylon bristle, and it's surrounded by boar bristles all the way around it. This one's arranged in straight rows. There are some where you see them offset, things like that. But this is going to be gentle on your hair compared to a boar bristle brush if you have really coarse or unruly hair. A little more gentle on your hair, and a lot easier for most clients to use at home. So there's many different types of these out there. Again, the nylon bristle, I will say, is mostly for detangling and giving some stiffness to the boar bristle, and the boar bristle is going to smooth that cuticle layer down and give you nice, shiny, shiny hair. So there's another type that I use, and this is kind of one of my favorite ones to use in the salon, especially for my clients with really long hair. This is Olivia Garden. It's an Ionic Boar combo. So the other ones you saw had the white bristles on them. This one has a synthetic plastic bristle, and it does have the little tip on the end to protect your hair from breakage and things like that. The great thing about this one being the shape. When I'm using this in the salon, the shape of the barrel is going to keep the hair on the brush, so it's not going to be coming off the sides and things like that, as well as the spacing. You can kind of see everything's on its own row, and there are gaps between it. This brush gets awesome airflow. I can get my client's hair very dry very quickly and still have awesome shine, awesome manageability, give it a nice kind of curl to the hair, flip it out. This one's awesome. I love this brush in the salon. Now, I will say one of the reasons I like this brush a little more than something like this, sometimes if your clients have a really sensitive scalp, these unprotected bristles can kind of poke and things like that. So definitely you want to be a little more cautious when using this one if you have a very sensitive scalp. Sometimes I have heard clients complain that this one kind of scratches them. Something like this, it's going to be protected, and you're also, with the curved shape of the brush, you're going to be able to get it a lot closer to the scalp. Now this one, unlike the other Porcupine brush, which has rows of nylon boar bristles on every row, this one is going to be every other one. So you can see, it's kind of hard to see on my camera, but you can see this row right here is all boar bristle. And then you go to the next row and you're going to see the boar bristle and the nylon bristles. So this one's awesome because it has, in my opinion, the right amount of nylon bristles to help detangle and things like that, as well as the awesome boar bristles to really smooth that cuticle layer shut. My mentor had always taught me boar bristle brush is just the way to go, and that's my opinion. I will say I have some stylist friends that really just don't like the boar bristle brush. It takes them too long, and in our industry, obviously, time is money. And for many people, time is money when you're trying to do your hair in the morning and get out the door. Most people don't want to spend 45 minutes blow drying their hair, but this is a great alternative because it does give you kind of the best of both worlds. And this one, again, is, let's see, it's an Olivia Garden Thermo Active brush. I think I got this one at Ulta when I was running to a gig one day. I kind of just didn't have one of my regular Porcupine bristle brushes. Saw this one, figured I'd try it. I'm always trying new things, and this was one that I definitely loved. It's kind of like a vented round brush, in my opinion, with the Porcupine bristles. Now, the last one I want to go over, and I don't really have a lot of examples of it, nor do I really want to show a lot of examples of it, because the only reason I have brushes like this are for wig styling. I do a lot of hair pieces, wigs, things like that, for photo shoots and stuff, and it's going to be the metal bristle. Now, the issue I have, and I have friends that use metal bristle brushes on their hair, these brushes are just not flexible enough for human hair, especially if your average client, if you're just going to use it like a regular brush. These brushes can cause a lot of breakage and put too much heat on the hair. Now, my friends and stylists that do use them on their heads or on their clients' heads are for clients that have really coarse, really dense, and sometimes super curly hair. That flexible bristle is just what they need to really get through the hair. I'd prefer to use a Porcupine bristle brush over that, just because I think it's gentler on the hair. I really don't recommend to any of my clients to use metal bristles on their hair. Really, primarily when I'm using them is for wigs. Wigs and synthetic hair can really kind of take the roughness of a brush like this. Also times when I'm using like a horsehair wig or something like that. The coarseness of the animal hair really doesn't respond well to your average brush. A boar bristle brush, I mean, really does nothing on that type of hair. But the metal ones can really comb through the hair and just, again, giving you more control while utilizing that brush. That's why you'll see, I don't know if you guys have cats or dogs, I have both. Their brushes are always going to be a metal bristle because they have a different hair texture. It's kind of like I know cats are kind of like a corkscrew. So that brush is able to detangle their hair and manage it, and also it does penetrate down to the scalp, which promotes oils from their body, keeping their hair healthy and shiny and things like that. But I will say, personally, I don't use metal bristles on any of my clients. Unless my client is a wig or a hairpiece. And even there, I only have a couple of them in my repertoire, and they're usually going to be referred to as a wig brush. You can Google them out there. If you Google wig brush, most of the ones you'll see are going to be metal. Now this one I use, let's see, this is a Kent. I love the Kent brand, and it's probably backwards in there. This is the Kent brand. I love this brand. It's a brand out of the United Kingdom. If you guys are in beauty school out there, they do offer an awesome student pack where you can get a lot of these brushes at half price. It's like this big kit. And definitely recommend it. It takes a little bit of time to get to you, and you do have to email them to get it. But once I got my hands on my Kent brush set, I love them. Love them. Probably some of my most protected brushes. And the cool thing about the Kent brushes, which I kind of thought was neat, is they are the brush makers to the Queen of England. A lot of their brushes are kind of stamped. I don't know if you can see that. But it says, by appointment to Her Majesty the Queen. So some of their brushes can get super expensive, and I'm talking like $600–700 for some of their brushes. But they are one of the oldest brush companies, I believe, out there, and make some of the finest quality brushes. I mean, their bristles are awesome. They don't shed or anything like that. They can be a little more difficult to use. They're definitely more for a professional stylist and things like that. But if you're looking to have professional brushes at home and you're not a professional stylist, I will say love the Kent brand. They are awesome.